Infant Rex. Infant Rex earns the bottom spot for the most honest reason possible. It hasn't done anything yet. The very first T-Rex the franchise ever showed the audience wasn't roaring through a storm, it was cracking out of an egg on wet straw, wings of shell still stuck to a body that could barely hold its own head up. No locked-in teeth, no muscle mass built for a hunt, 0 kills, 0 threat rating, 0 reputation. But here's the part people skip past. Every single name on this list, including the queen at the very top, started exactly here, in exactly this position. The apex predator of an entire franchise once needed help just standing upright. Power in this universe isn't handed out at hatching, it's earned in the years nobody bothers filming. Buckrex. Buckrex is where earned starts showing measurable results. This adult male didn't just defend territory, he flipped an entire armored mobile trailer off a cliff edge with a hunting team still trapped inside it. Then followed that up weeks later by breaking loose in downtown San Diego and turning a city block into a full-scale stampede. Cars flattened, streets emptied, a park predator suddenly functioning as an urban apex threat. That's raw physical dominance operating completely outside its natural ecosystem and still winning. The catch? Every bit of that rampage was reactive, not chosen. Buckrex wasn't executing a hunt, he was answering provocation. First from a bullhook and a cattle prod, then from a tranquilizer dart he never saw coming. Strength without patience. His mate solved that exact problem before he ever needed to. Dorex. Dorex hunted with a level of precision Buck never had to develop. Because she wasn't defending herself, she was defending an injured offspring. When an armed hunting team came for her nest, she didn't charge blindly. She tracked adult humans through dense jungle terrain at night and picked them off one at a time, using fog, foliage, and silence instead of just overpowering everything in front of her. That's a Tyrannosaur behaving like a patient stalking predator instead of a battering ram, closing distance without ever giving away her position until it was already too late for the target. Pound for pound, she's matched with her mate, but her kill count is built on strategy rather than rage. Strategy is exactly what the next name on this list had to learn from nothing, with a human standing beside it the entire time. Big Eatie. Big Eatie flips the entire premise of this ranking because this is the one T-Rex here that operated as an ally instead of a threat. Tracked, tagged, and loosely bonded with field researcher Jess Harding, Big Eatie repeatedly appeared at the exact moment survival required an apex predator fighting on your side rather than against you, engaging rival threats on the island, including packs of smaller carnivores that would have otherwise ended the story early for everyone involved. Size-wise, this is one of the largest, most physically dominant adults on the entire list, easily capable of matching buck or doe in raw power, with a stride long enough to close distance on fleeing vehicles. But the ceiling on Big Eatie's ranking is simple. Every advantage on record came with a human variable attached to it. Remove the imprint bond, remove the tracking device, remove the guidance from someone who understood its patterns, and the real question becomes whether the instinct underneath still holds up completely alone with no one left to call it off. Little Eatie. Little Eatie answers that exact question, and the answer should unsettle you. You'd assume the offspring ranks below the parent it learned everything from. You'd be wrong. Little Eatie grows up without the imprint bond that shaped Big Eatie's entire behavior pattern, without a researcher's tracking device, without a support system engineered by people watching from a safe distance with dart guns ready. What's left standing is a T-Rex that had to figure out threat assessment, territory control, and raw survival entirely on its own terms. In a far more hostile and unmonitored world than either of its parents parents ever operated in, with no adult Rex nearby to fall back on. The student didn't just catch up to the teacher's abilities, it skipped the training wheels the teacher never even had the chance to remove, learning caution and aggression in the same breath instead of across a lifetime. And that self-taught quality is the exact trait the franchise's most famous name spent 3 separate decades proving, over and over, long after everyone assumed she'd already peaked. Rexy. Rexy's first appearance is still the single moment the entire franchise defines itself by. Breaking full containment mid-storm, ending an active threat to 2 children stranded in a stalled vehicle. And then, in the film's final act, arriving completely uninvited to tear through 2 raptors mid-ambush and save the last survivors trapped inside the visitor center. That's not territorial defense. That's an apex predator making an unprompted call that flips the entire outcome of the story in someone else's favor. The catch at this early stage? It's 1 park, 1 storm-lashed night, 1 demonstration of ability. Reputation, not a resume. It would take over 20 years in-universe before that reputation ever got tested again on a real stage. Rexy resurfaces decades later, formally confirmed as the exact same individual through matching scar patterns across her hide, and immediately proves rust was never part of the deal. When a genetically engineered hybrid, built from the ground up specifically to be unbeatable, started outclassing every containment measure the island had, Rexy came out of quiet retirement and, fighting alongside an allied trained raptor, helped bring the hybrid down for good. An animal shaped by decades of undocumented survival and raw instinct, taking on a predator engineered in a lab to have no equal anywhere on the food chain and not losing. That's not nostalgia casting for the cameras, that's the same instinct from the very first film, tested against an opponent purpose-built to make it obsolete and still coming out ahead. Rexy, Dominion Finale. Rexy closes this ranking exactly where the crown suggests, because by the final act of the saga, this is no longer a story about 1 T-Rex holding down 1 park. It's an alliance. Standing alongside 2 raptors against a Giganotosaurus, a predator built to be objectively larger, faster, and more aggressive on paper in every single category, Rexy doesn't win the fight through size. She wins through decades of accumulated instinct, precise positioning, and a level of trust in her allies that nothing lower on this list ever had the years to build. It's the only fight on this entire ranking where the strongest individual predator in the room isn't the one left standing at the end. Coordination is. Every single name before this one solved exactly 1 problem. A nest, a bond, a hybrid, a single storm-lit night. Rexy solved all of them, one after another, across an entire lifetime, and the ecosystem itself crowned her for it. Infant Rex, Buckrex, Dorex, Big Eatie, Little Eatie, Rexy in the park, Rexy in the world, Rexy at the very end of it all. 8 versions of the same species, and the real gap between the weakest name on this list and the strongest was never teeth or tonnage, it was time. If this ranking matches your own tier list, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me which T-Rex you'd actually want standing next to you during a breach. Coming up next, ranking every Jurassic Park raptor from weakest to strongest.